So there it is. That's the first clip we've got for you, and my colleague Kristin McHugh is going to take it from there and talk about some of the challenges that Brazil still faces, which is the focus of her segment in the radio documentary.
In the development of the program, really we wanted to hit on three key themes: the rise and the influence that Brazil is enjoying and celebrating. But also look at the challenges that might hold Brazil back from achieving its full potential. And so that's where the social challenges segment comes into play. And Keith and I live in Iowa, and because we live in the Midwest, we have a great opportunity to go out and talk to folks who don't necessarily spend any time thinking at all about what happens beyond their backyard, and say, what do you think of Brazil? Or what do you know about Brazil? And if I talk to people in my husband's company, they'll say, oh, we have this huge facility down there. My husband works for Bandag. They retread truck tires all over the world, and they do have a huge operational facility in Brazil. There was once a booming rubber industry in Brazil, hence the reason why his company is there. But if I talk to my mother or my Aunt Sally or someone in Peoria, the answer is, oh, it's full of violence and poverty. And they'll say, well, what else do you know about Brazil? It's full of violence and poverty. And so we knew that we were going to have to tackle the violence and poverty issue. But we wanted to look at it from a different perspective, because it's pretty obvious in the research that we did that Brazil recognizes that A, it has a problem with violence and poverty, and B, that it really could potentially hold the country back from achieving all of the opportunity that the rest of the program that we've put together talks about, and all the other things that are going well for Brazil. And so what we said was, it would be really interesting to look at the programs that Brazil thinks will get it to the point where it can take care of the violence and the poverty. So we basically looked at the opportunities that Brazil's government has created to try to help deal with the situation of poverty and deal with the situation of violence, in hopes that that will lift the country out of the terrible things that most people recognize Brazil for. And so that's why there's not a lot of negative poverty images. There's not a lot of negative poverty audio. We did go to the favelas. We did spend time in Sao Paulo. We spent an entire day in the favelas there, and also with a police group outside of Sao Paulo. And my segment that Keith will play here shortly, you will see all of that. And really the purpose of that was to put a human face on some of these programs. But our goal was not to say, oh, this place is really horribly violent, and this place is really horribly poor. This is the reality, and this is the reality of the programs that have been created by the Brazilian government. I mean, I oftentimes see documentaries on Brazil, and they focus on a lot of the negative, and so I want to prepare you for the fact that you're not going to see a ton of the negative, but instead you're going to see what Brazil is doing to try to address that. So I think that basically, Keith can start the PowerPoint, and I'll move out of the way. Favelas, or shantytowns, are easy to see as they dot the hillsides throughout Sao Paulo. Brazil may be the 10th largest economy in the world, but the United Nations' most recent Human Development Index says roughly 1 out of 5 Brazilians live on less than $2 a day. In Sao Paulo, kidnapping, armed assault, and homicide have become a routine part of daily life for many of the city's 19 million residents. Despite these challenges, Brazil's government has developed some creative solutions to fight crime and poverty, and people I visited with are now full of hope and pride. A concrete garage along a rutted dirt road in Via Marcelo, a poor neighborhood in Sao Paulo's Parelheiros district, embodies this hope. It's the location of a new hair salon.
Nothing better than a mother and a daughter working together. As a matter of fact, my clients say this is the beauty salon of the mother and daughter.
32-year-old Daisy Duarte da Silva owns this yet-to-be formally named hair salon, along with her oldest daughter, 17-year-old Sylvia. Daisy is a recipient of a Sao Paulo state government cash transfer program. She receives 60 real a month, or roughly $35. Daisy and Sylvia were also given the opportunity to take a hairdresser course for free. Daisy, a former house cleaner, jumped at the chance to open her own business with Sylvia. The salon is simple. 2 barber-style chairs, 2 mirrors hanging on freshly painted peach-colored walls, a wooden payment counter, and a portable sink.
I am secure. It's a dream come true. I thought one day I could, but I didn't know it would happen this fast.
Brazil is growing exactly because it is fighting the battle against poverty.
Patrice Ananias de Souza is Brazil's Minister of Social Development and the Fight Against Hunger. He oversees the country's popular Bolsa Familia program, a conditional cash transfer that puts money directly into the hands of Brazil's poorest residents, as long as their children remain enrolled in school. Nearly 1/4 of Brazil's population, or more than 46 million people living in households earning less than $70 a month, are covered under Bolsa Familia. But does the program really work? The World Bank praises the program, and the Human Development Index says Bolsa Familia accounts for 16% of Brazil's recent decline in extreme poverty. But the program has its critics.
In Brazil, unfortunately, we celebrate the increase of people who receive Bolsa Familia and not the possibility of fewer families needing it.
Rodrigo Maia leads Brazil's main opposition party, the Democratic Party. He applauds President Lula for consolidating a hodgepodge of social programs under the Bolsa Familia umbrella. But Maia says the program doesn't go far enough. Minister de Souza strongly says Bolsa Familia strikes at the very roots of the opposition's concerns.
We intend to preserve family bonds. We know that poor families may fall apart. The children, instead of going to school like we want, they will go to the streets with the predictable consequences that we know.
Residents of Jardim Ranieri, a tough neighborhood south of Sao Paulo City, know the consequences of poverty and violence all too well. The neighborhood, roughly 1.5 square miles, is home to 51,000 people. They live in cement and brick houses stacked upon one another that hug the hillsides.
In 1999, we had the biggest number of homicides, and it was considered by research done by the United Nations as the most dangerous place in the world. More homicides than countries with wars.
Captain Gilberto Tardoki de Silva and his crew work out of a substation located along one of Jardim Ranieri's busiest intersections. Captain de Silva and nearly a dozen of his officers were anxious to take us out on patrol. As our convoy snaked through the narrow streets of Jardim Ranieri, officers stopped a series of what they termed suspicious men on motorcycles. Guns drawn, the officers were taking no chances. Suspects are ordered to spread their feet and place their hands on the wall. They are frisked for guns and then are ordered to remove their shirts so officers can check for gang tattoos. Crowds of onlookers gather as officers verify identification papers with the main police base. After several minutes, the suspects are allowed to leave. This show of force is clearly working. Captain De Silva says the neighborhood's homicide rate has dropped an astounding 80% since the police base opened. But the tough police approach is not without controversy. Local human rights groups and the UN's Special Rapporteur on Torture have been critical of the Jardim Ranieri substation's tough tactics. Captain De Silva even acknowledges his department will do what it takes to stamp out crime. Neighborhood residents we talked to don't seem to mind. Resident Luis De Silva.
The action of the police is very important to the region. At night, the cars circulating on the roads, it brings security to the people.